Hi, my name's James King, and this is a presentation I did at a recent Gartner Conference in the Gold Coast in Australia. Software Education is a company that trains, coaches and supports teams on their Agile journey. We often find teams struggling with this concept of governance in an Agile setting, or Agile in a setting with an existing governance. People seem to know what Agile is, or think they do, and know what governance is, or think they do. But they seem to struggle a lot when they put the two together. A lot of our training focuses on what happens within the team. We talk about an iteration manager, probably a product owner, sometimes an architect or a project manager, and how the team interact to deliver value. But what happens when this is embedded within a wider organisation? Unfortunately, we often see organisational antibodies making it hard for a team to become effectively agile, and unfortunately, just as often we see teams believe that agile means they're exempt and free from any external governance. So what do I mean by governance? To me, governance is a process or approach to use when making decisions. So organisational governance means the approach the organisation takes to make business decisions. Agile governance often talks about designs coming from self-organising teams, giving the team the support they need and trusting them to get on with the job. This makes sense if we assume that self-organising teams are driving our work and they're made up of motivated, well-informed, intelligent people. But that does not mean that the Agile team is totally free from governance, nor that it can tell the organisation how it is to be governed. Just as an Agile team must be allowed to make its own decisions because it's a self-organising team, so too does an organisation have the right to make its decisions based on the information it believes it needs to make those decisions. Agile projects are based on the principles of the Agile Manifesto, which in fact supports good governance. It recommends having a plan and, of course, adapting to change. It also says the team should regularly stop and review its own progress. So let's look at how Agile teams review their performance on a regular basis. One of the most common measures in an Agile project is a velocity chart. It's called a velocity chart because it measures how fast a team is going. Basically, the team measures how much working software or working product has been built each week or iteration or sprint, how much work is completed over a unit of time. Measuring how much work you get done each week is useful. If you know how much work you've got, your backlog or your original scope, and you know how fast you're getting through it, you can predict how long it will take. Similarly, if you add extra work, you can see that it will take longer. If you take work away, you should finish sooner. If you go faster or slower than expected, you can also see what impact this will have. So measuring speed for its own purpose can be seen as useful. But the main reason we measure velocity is actually not about how long the project will take. It's about why the team can't go faster. It may seem a bit mean to ask people why they're not going faster. They're probably working as hard as they can. But in fact, this is the point. According to the theory of constraints, the world would be awesome and we'd go infinitely fast, except that there are constraints. So we don't want to know how fast the team's going for the purpose of knowing how fast they're going and when it'll end. We're trying to encourage a discussion about constraints. Why can't you go faster? Because of constraint. In fact, almost all of the measures in Agile, stand-ups, story walls, velocity, almost all of them are about constraints, bottlenecks or dependencies, the things the team needs to deal with, not to go faster, but just to get their job done. So the measures are designed to have discussions about where support is needed and where there should be concern and where our plan may be altered by reality. In fact, there are many legitimate reasons why you might not be going faster. In a car, for example, you might be limited by the speed limit, bumps in the road, lack of confidence in the engine or the brakes, lack of experience of the driver. These things are very important to understand not just when the car will arrive, but how best to drive in the current conditions. So the velocity of the team is the same. It's not about how fast the team is going. It's about how well they can manage their constraints, which constraints need to be planned for, and which can actually be better improved upon to allow the team faster, but to do better work. But of course, there is a slight danger with using velocity as a measure. It comes down to this. In physics, velocity is not just speed, it is actually speed plus vector, where vector means direction. There is no point in going really fast in the wrong direction, whether in a car or in a project. Going really fast one way and really fast back again just means you're back where you started. Going really fast in a random direction does not mean you'll get to your destination. So what we really need is a measure not just of speed, but of the direction the project is going in, how much closer they are to their direction than they were before. So the Agile team will measure not just speed in a velocity chart, they'll also measure things like defects and other aspects of quality, integration with other systems and other aspects of risk. But even these are usually measures that are based on data. In Agile, we believe that interpretation of data, understanding of trends and understanding of ambiguity is best done through human interaction. So one of the major measures of velocity or progress of the team is not the speed at which they're travelling, but the showcase, a meeting about the direction, the quality and the satisfaction the customer has with where the project is going. The showcase measures not so much are we going fast enough, but are we making the progress we want to make? Are we producing what we want to produce? This is really the primary measure of our velocity. So we measure our speed, or the rate at which we're getting through our work, to not just work out when we're going to finish, but more to discuss our constraints, where effort is needed, where help is needed, and where we need to replan based on reality. We also measure other things like quality and defects, but importantly, we interpret all these measures in a showcase and or other meetings. So the question is, does this approach work? And if so, does it work well? Actually, the answer is no. All this data and all this interaction is useful, but not sufficient for a team of well-meaning, intelligent, well-informed, self-organising people to be successful. In one piece of important research on self-organising teams, R. Simons found that the team will only be successful if they have good measures, good data and good interaction, as well as a good culture, a clear understanding of the boundaries within which the team can innovate, and also the directional vision for the team. So Agile governance, for it to be successful, is not just about the measures, which are necessary but not sufficient for success. It's about ensuring a culture of accountability and collaboration. This is where success comes from, according to R. Simons, and it's certainly been my experience that he's right. Later research by Gilbert and Sutherland, not to be confused with the opera writers, found that there were other factors outside the team which also led to success or failure. Managing and understanding these factors that is important in governance. This means that the team are measuring information for their own decisions, but what they're doing is not sufficient for the full successful governance of an Agile team. It's more about managing the culture and the environment than measuring the actual team's performance. In fact, the Agile measures integrate very well into a governance approach for self-organising teams, in line with the research done by Simons. However, part of the governance must also be beyond what people often see in measurements and reports to steering committees, into managing the organisational factors. Velocity and discussion of constraints facilitates a discussion about these. But what is really critical is that the team have a clear vision with shared beliefs, clear, well-understood boundaries, and environmental factors that amplify or dampen the impact of what the team would otherwise do. In other words, constraints in place to pull the team in the right direction rather than obstacles in place to push them in the wrong direction. Agile governance involves creating an environment where the team are allowed to get on with the job, capable of getting on with the job, and held accountable for doing so. So what can we conclude from all this? Well, Agile measures are different from traditional measures. They're optimised for the team to discuss their constraints with those close to the team and among themselves. They provide fast feedback to the team, they measure information at the coalface, and they give the team flexibility in how to measure, which also means we give them the ability to game them or change subjective measures at will. So they are not so good for measuring the team's performance from the outside. They're not about team productivity, and they're not about whether the team are doing good or evil. So what's important is they must integrate with other governance aspects. The organisation may choose to put in place other measures of the team based on what kind of governance it wants. This will depend on the context and the environment in which the team are operating. In fact, based on my own findings rather than validated research, one of the most important things is to have a product owner or business representative with clear decision rights, knowing what he or she can decide or where he or she needs to check with others. Agile governance measures give clear direction and boundaries when they are used correctly. It's about optimising the team's ability to deliver decisions and solutions. It's about the product owner knowing what's going on and the team know what's going on. On the basis, the product owner and the team understand their boundaries. Agile processes integrate with the wider organisation, but they cannot be replaced by organisational measures, because the organisational measures are not fit for purpose for a team to make decisions at the coalface. They are fit for purpose for outsiders to make decisions beyond the boundaries of the team. So my final conclusion is this. Agile measures are optimised for teams and product owners to make effective decisions about their constraints, obstacles, dependencies and bottlenecks and how to manage them. They are not really for decisions beyond the team. They can be used, but they should be complemented by other organisational measures. In addition, they are not measures on their own. They are part of a governance structure based on team culture and creating a team environment where people can make decisions and get on with them and be accountable for the outcome. So they're not optimal on their own. They are part of the solution. If you want good governance for an Agile team, you should use your Agile measures for the team to make decisions. Good culture to create the right team and the right focus. Clear boundaries, clear direction. And beyond that, you may have other measures of budgets or other performance that integrate in with the Agile measures. I'm not sure if that's eye-opening. It's probably quite pragmatic, but those are my conclusions. Thank you very much. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, you can find it at my blog, kingsinsight.com, although admittedly it's in very rough and ready form. If you'd like a more robust answer about governance or about how to go Agile, contact Software Education, softed.com on the web or at the email addresses here, or send me an email if you just want more of my opinions. Thank you very much.